The stock market free fall, the Dow losing more than 2,000 points today. President Trump responding tonight.
We are over the shock of the American betrayal. Trump is trying to break us so that America can own us.
If you want to know what Trump's 2025 trade war is all about, and more importantly, how it could hit your wallet, your job, or even your business, then stick around. We'll break it all down for you in plain, simple English. No confusing jargon, no TV shouting matches, just the real story, in a way anyone can understand. So here's what just happened. On April 2nd, 2025, President Donald Trump dropped a massive announcement. He slapped a 10% tax, called a tariff, on nearly every single thing the U.S. imports from other countries. And if it's coming from China, get ready. Those goods are now getting hit with a 145% tariff. That's basically a tax bomb on Chinese stuff like electronics, clothes, tools, you name it. Trump called this move Liberation Day. He says it's the start of a big economic comeback for American factories and workers. He's pitching it like it's a revolution, bringing back Made in America and cutting off what he calls unfair trade deals with countries like China, the European Union, Japan, and South Korea. But here's the thing. Right after he dropped those tariffs, he hit pause on a bunch of them. Just hours later, some tariffs stayed, some didn't. Some Chinese tech products got a smaller 20% tax instead of 145%. It's been all over the place. And markets, businesses, and pretty much everyone else are scrambling to figure out what's really going on. In short, Trump has thrown the world economy into a whole new kind of trade war, bigger and messier than before. And while the headlines talk about global politics and stock markets, at the end of the day, this story's going to show up where it matters most, your wallet. All right, so now that you know what's happening, let's hear it straight from the big players themselves. First up, Trump himself. On his social media, he called the new tariffs an economic revolution. He said, and I quote, "This is an economic revolution, and we will win. It won't be easy, but the end result will be great. We are making America great again." Classic Trump energy. He's selling this whole thing like a big comeback story for America. Backing him up, Vice President J.D. Vance had his own take. Vance basically said, "Look, it's crazy that some people are fine fighting wars with China, but panic at the idea of cutting trade with them. In simple terms, he's saying, better to take some short-term pain now and fix our supply chains than stay hooked on cheap Chinese stuff forever." But not everybody's cheering. The International Monetary Fund, the big global watchdog for the economy, just dropped a bombshell. They downgraded their forecast for global growth from 3.1% down to 2.8%, almost overnight. And they flat out blamed Trump's tariffs for it. Pierre-Olivier Gourinchas, the IMF's top economist, said the new tariffs, especially the ones targeting China, are slowing down global trade growth and making things riskier for everybody, not just America. And then there's China. They didn't exactly send a thank you note. China's foreign ministry came out swinging, saying tariff wars have no winner. They basically warned Trump that if he wants a trade fight, they're ready to hit back hard. So to sum it up, Trump says it's a revolution. Vance says it's common sense. The IMF says it's bad news for the whole world. And China says, bring it on. Now, you might be thinking, okay, politicians say whatever they want, but what do the real money experts think about all this? Well, buckle up, because it's not pretty. First up, Paul Krugman. You know, the guy who won the Nobel Prize for Economics? He's seriously worried, but not just about the tariffs themselves. He's worried because it's all so unpredictable. Krugman said, "There's been nothing like this. Nobody knows what's coming next. One day, tariffs are up. Next day, they're paused. And that kind of crazy back and forth, it scares businesses from investing, spending, hiring." He even said, if this chaos keeps up, a U.S. recession is likely. Not maybe, likely. Next, Ray Dalio, the guy who runs Bridgewater, one of the biggest hedge funds on earth. Dalio's warning was even heavier. He said, "We're very close to a recession. And if this is handled badly, it could be worse than a recession." And when Dalio says worse, he's talking about stuff like the 1930s Great Depression. Why? Because when you mix trade wars, huge debt, and political chaos, history shows things can spiral fast. Then there's Nouriel Roubini, aka Dr. Doom. He called Trump's whole Liberation Day thing literally Orwellian doublespeak. Translation? He thinks it's total nonsense. Roubini warns lower growth, higher inflation, U.S. consumers getting crushed. In short, he says America's playing with fire. And Larry Summers, the former Treasury Secretary, he didn't mince words either. Summers tweeted that the cost of Trump's tariffs could hit $30 trillion. Yep, that's trillion with a T. And he called the whole thing the most expensive, masochistic economic policy in decades. Even Mohammed El-Arian, one of the most respected bond experts out there, said global markets are flashing major warning signs. Translation: big investors are already moving their money, expecting rough times ahead. So, when you've got Nobel Prize winners, billionaire hedge fund bosses, top Wall Street strategists, all waving red flags at the same time, it's not noise. It's a giant economic fire alarm. And the real question now isn't just what's happening, it's how bad it's gonna get. All right, so the big shots have sounded the alarm. Now let's talk about what all this really means for the world and for you. First up, the global economy. When America throws up huge tariffs like this, world trade doesn't just slow down, it hits a wall. The International Monetary Fund says global growth is already dropping. Big exporting countries, China, Japan, Germany, they're gonna feel it hard. Emerging countries, the ones trying to climb up, could get crushed by rising debt and slower trade. And get this, borrowing money is already getting way more expensive around the world because uncertainty makes investors nervous. But what about you? What does this mean for your day-to-day life? First, expect higher prices. Groceries, gas, clothes, electronics. All the stuff you buy, a lot of it comes from overseas. Tariffs are basically taxes, and companies, they're just gonna pass those costs right down to you. Economists are saying the average American family could get hit with an extra $1,700 to $5,000 a year in costs. Second, jobs could be at risk. When companies can't predict what's coming next, they don't invest, they don't hire. Sometimes they even lay off. And third, your savings, your retirement accounts could take a hit if the stock market keeps shaking like it has the past month. Bottom line, even if you're not into politics, even if you don't care about global trade deals, this stuff could sneak into your life in ways you'll feel at the store, at the gas pump, and even in your paycheck. Okay, so it's not all doom and gloom. Whenever the game changes, somebody's gonna come out a winner. Even in this new trade war, there are some industries that could cash in big time. First, good old-fashioned American manufacturing. Factories that make steel, tools, electronics, and basic goods inside the U.S. They're gonna get a second life. Why? Because when foreign products get hit with heavy tariffs and prices shoot up, buying local starts to look a whole lot cheaper. Think construction materials, home appliances, basic electronics, clothing made in America. Factories that barely survived the past 20 years, some could suddenly be booming again. Second, companies that handle supply chains inside America, trucking, logistics, warehousing, they're gonna see more action too. Trump's plan is all about bringing supply chains back home, so any business that helps move goods around inside the country could be in for a payday. And third, any brand that's already shouting "Made in America" is about to have a marketing field day. People love a good underdog story, and buying American could go from being a nice idea to a serious movement. So while tariffs might squeeze a lot of wallets, they could also spark a new manufacturing boom right here at home. And smart businesses are already gearing up for it. All right, now for the good stuff. You're probably thinking, okay, I get it. Prices up, market's shaky, but what can I actually do about it? Here's how you can not just ride out the storm, but maybe even come out ahead. First, if you invest in stocks or retirement accounts, this is the time to think about rebalancing your portfolio. Focus more on industries that could benefit. U.S. manufacturing companies, logistics and trucking companies, homegrown brand, and maybe sprinkle in a little bit of safe haven assets, like gold or inflation-protected bonds. Don't panic sell, but be smart about where you park your money. Second, if you own a business or you're thinking of starting a side hustle, this is your chance to tap into the Made in America movement. Look for ways to source local products. Advertise proudly if you're US-based. Consumers are going to start caring a lot more about where their stuff comes from. Small manufacturers, local brands, and even service businesses that highlight American-made could see a major bump. And even if you're just trying to keep your wallet from taking a beating, there's stuff you can do. Lock in deals now before prices go higher. Buy used instead of new when you can. Cut down on luxury imports that are going to cost way more soon. Basically, be a little bit ahead of the curve, because by the time prices jump, it'll be too late. Yeah, times are getting weird, and yeah, things might get a little rocky. But the people who win are the ones who see the wave coming and start paddling before it hits. Stay smart, stay sharp, and turn this mess into your opportunity.